Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Friday Night Likes on American Hammers TV. We have an exciting show for you here tonight. Every Friday, we get together, we get some West Ham fans in the room, and we compete for one of these. It's a thumbs up button. And our main scorer is Wally. As you all know, he's here every week. He's tracking the likes, he's doing the good things. Wally, who are you? Where are you? What are you drinking? And
All right,
what's going on, man? You all right?
yeah, I'm Wally, and normally I'm about 3 miles from John in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, right outside of Philadelphia. But right now I'm in snowy Massachusetts and stay in a hotel room with my little pad of paper ready to keep score. So that's where I am, and I'm
Good
drinking
stuff.
water because earlier we had a few drinks at dinner, so I didn't want to lose my accounting skills.
Wally is rehydrating and making sure that
Yes.
he's a professional for tonight's performance.
Right. I'm ready.
Jason, how are you, man? What's going on? Who are you? Where can we find you online? What are you drinking? And all that good stuff.
All right, I'm doing great. Glad to be here. I am in Charlotte, North Carolina, part of the Queen City Hammers group that we have down here. And you can follow me on Instagram. It's about 30% West Ham, and the rest of it's like my dog and weird pictures that I take. It's Q City OLAS, Queen City over Land and Sea. And I'm drinking scotch.
Ooh, Scotchy, Scotch. Good stuff, Jason. Tommy has joined us from across the Atlantic, but whereabouts are you, Tommy? What are you drinking? I hope it's something caffeinated.
Evening, folks. I'm in Kerry in Ireland, southwest coast of Ireland. I'm way more boring than Jason. I've got my water, strawberry flavored, so it's very nice. But yeah, and as you can see at the bottom of my screen there, you can find me on Twitter. I'm only on Twitter. It's the only kind of social media platform I really use. It's at Tomster36, so people can follow me there.
Tommy is very active on Twitter, and he's a pretty good laugh on there. So I do encourage everybody to follow him. I'm going to get into it. Like I said, these guys are all going to compete for likes. Wally, we're supposed to have another guest come on, and I'll bring him into the room should he join. But if not, I'm going to let you play, Wally. I'm not going to lie. It won't actually count, but I want to hear some of your answers tonight too. So we'll get that one going.
All right.
There could be some thumbs down though, Wally. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see how you perform tonight. So
I can handle a thumbs down.
So like I said, we'll get going. Everybody's playing for these things. Wally's going to keep his own score, so maybe we need to keep his. And we'll bring it on to question number one, which is West Ham have not won a game outside of London and Watford since December 2018. A truly shocking statistic. So first question is, what's the cause of that? Why can't we win outside of London? Is there something going on with a geographical pull towards the capital? The closer to the bowling or closer to the London Stadium we are, the better we do. How can this be explained? Jason, let's start with you.
Well, the cause of our inability to win outside of London is the same as the cause of all of our other problems. Psychological. I've said for years that West Ham's next signing needs to be some sort of doctor who can come in and assess what's wrong with the club. A lot of clubs can go down 1-0 and come back and win. We often can't. A lot of clubs can show tenacity when things aren't going well, and we're not able to do that. And this is not with this manager or this current squad. It goes back a long time. So I actually think it's a psychological thing.
Yeah, it's we have a history of doing that for sure. Tommy?
It's a tough one to put your finger on. There's no particular reason things should be that way. No, realistically, we probably don't win that many away games anyway. We've always just done well when we go to Tottenham. We had a rare win against Chelsea the other day. Don't normally do that. 17 years, I think, since we beat them away. I think, we have an away problem in general. Why we can't win away outside of the kind of London, Watford area, I don't know. It's bizarre. I wasn't aware of that stat, to be honest. But it's hard for me to put my finger on, really. I mean, there's no reason it should be that way. I think it's just a general away malaise that we have at the club, really. We don't win that many. I mean, going back to second half of last season, I mean, we were playing okay, and we finished the season quite strongly. So I was surprised we didn't get any kind of good away wins there outside of that area. But and this season early on we started quite well. But yeah, it's hard to put your finger on. I mean, there's no particular reason it should be that way. Yeah, I honestly don't have an answer for that. I just don't know why.
Well, I'm not going to give you a thumb if you're not giving me an answer. Wally, what is it about London? Wally, you're on mute. That looks very impassionate.
Yeah,
though.
I had a great point, but what it is we don't like to travel well, and Mark Noble gets us fired up for the the London matches. Case in point, Chelsea last weekend, and but the other problem is that it goes back to Paolo Di Canio. He did not like to travel, and he set the stage for the rest of the club. So that is the real reason.
All jokes aside, that's kind of a culture problem that both you and Jason have touched on. Well, and Tommy too. I mean, we've had traditionally we're just pretty shit away, pretty shit at home. I mean, if you go back to the 90s, though, at least it was called Fortress Upton Park, and we could kind of rely on those results. But away has always been just a little bit dire. But miracles do happen. We did we did beat Liverpool for the first time in 40, 50 years at Anfield. 2-3 seasons ago. So we can win outside of this area. But who is it that we will win outside of this area? Who will we win against outside of this area? Which team do you see us most likely beating outside of the London-Watford area, and why? Tommy, let's start with you.
Okay, I'd like to think in a couple of games' time at St. Mary's, I think we'll have a really good chance to win there. I know Southampton have had a little bit of an upsurge in their form the last couple of games, but they're still a fragile team. They're still not a great team. So I'd like to think we could go to Southampton and get a result. That's very possible.
Yeah,
the problem is if we don't go to Southampton and win, I've been looking at the fixtures. There's a lot of tricky away games, after that, where I don't really fancy us too much. We have to travel to places like Leicester and Anfield, Man City away. We got those. So if we don't beat Southampton away, potentially we could be waiting until the 11th of April when we travel to St. James's Park to play Newcastle. I hope it doesn't come to that. But so I'll be positive, and I'm going to say we're going to go to St. Mary's and get a result.
Jason.
A few years ago, there was someone on Sky Sports who described West Ham as being the Robin Hood of the Premier League. We take from the rich and we give to the poor. So we constantly lose to teams that we should easily beat or that we should at least get a point from. So I'm going to go ahead and say we're going to get 3 points at City.
Ooh, that is bold. Why are we getting 3 points at City?
Why did we beat Chelsea? There was no good reason that should have happened given our recent form. So it's just that if people ask you what the West Ham way is, I've never heard anyone really define it well enough, in my opinion. But I really think that the West Ham way is losing to garbage teams and winning against teams that we really have no business winning against.
Yeah, that's have a thumb for that one. We are constantly snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Wally.
Well, I have to agree with Tom. I think it's Southampton. And listen, if we don't win at Southampton, we have 16 points now, and we need to get another 4 points before the half of the season is over. And the only place I really see that happening is Southampton. So we need to win at Southampton, and we will.
And we will. We better do. We got to turn this season around. It's not looking too great. What also isn't looking too great is the political discourse in the United States. How do you like that segue? That's pretty good. Trump is drawing ever closer to an impeachment hearing. People are yelling at each other. Democrats hate the Republicans. Republicans hate the Democrats. Who at West Ham would you impeach? Give me 3 reasons why you would impeach them. Wally, you look unprepared. I'm coming to you first.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, off the top of my head, I would impeach Pellegrini because he is being paid all this money, and he's just not delivering. I think he's mailing it in. He's not going anywhere, and so is Pellegrini. And I can't think of two other reasons off the top of my head, but he's just mailing it in. That's it's his retirement, and so I think he should be. That should send him off.
We'll go to our foreign correspondent last, Jason.
Well, I think it'd be very easy to go ahead and say that the owners are the ones that I would impeach, but I'm not sure. They're pretty terrible. They're not worse than a lot of other owners. So I'm going to go ahead and say Jack Sullivan. I actually think he should be impeached, and much for the same reason as Donald Trump. He needs to stay off Twitter. And I actually think they've done a better job of handling him and Karen Brady, who both used to embarrass and irritate all of us with their Twitter stuff. So I'd like to see Jack Sullivan impeached. The owners, I'd just like to see deposed and maybe sent to the guillotine.
You are a kind king, Tommy.
Okay, I'm with Wally on this one. I'm going with Pellegrini. The first reason is that he's absolutely wedded to his beloved fucking 4-2-3-1 or 4-2-3-1 formation. No matter who we're playing, home or away, regardless of what's required to win the game, regardless of the strengths and weaknesses of our opposition, it's 4-2-3-1 every single time. He might swap a couple of players in or out, but that's about it. Sticks with the same thing. Absolutely wedded to it for some reason. So that's number one. Second reason is he seems to be a bit deluded about our situation. Whenever you hear him press conferences, the press are aware of it, talking about, you're kind of struggling down there, looking over your shoulder at the relegation zone, and he doesn't see it. He thinks we're fine, everything's fine, we'll be fine, we'll win a couple of games, we're fine, we'll finish top half, no problem. He doesn't seem to kind of realize that we're in some trouble here, and that's number two. And thirdly, and most damningly, I think, is that he stuck with Roberto for so long, when clearly he was not up to the job. He was a calamity in goal. You could see he had no business playing in goal for any Premier League team, and yet he kept him in there game after game, and that was unforgivable to me. Should have been sacked just for that, frankly. So those are my three reasons I would impeach Pellegrini.
Everybody on this is Pellegrini out, right, Jason? You Pellegrini out as well?
At this point, it's hard to justify how you would keep him. I mean, his record's not better than some of the previous managers we've had, and we are in trouble. We're very much in trouble, and maybe he's doing something I'm not seeing, but it really comes across as he's not taking it seriously. So I'm not someone who likes to change managers mid-season. I don't like the revolving door we've become, and actually a lot of other clubs have become. But it's getting harder and harder to justify keeping him around. I can't see us really sticking with him to the end of the season.
Yeah. Wally, I'll give you an opportunity to get a thumb as well. Go ahead. You're Pellegrini out. Why?
Pellegrini, I think, like I said, he's just mailing it in. He's sticking with that same formation and the Roberto issue. He's just very stubborn. So I think he needs to go.
So I think that's part of a bigger point, right? I mean, I've seen some things on Twitter, and I have a tough time too, because I've said before, like I feel like people need time, managers need time. It's the one commodity that we do not give managers these days is time and the ability to build a team. You get maybe 2, possibly 3 transfer windows. How is it even your team at that point? But maybe after 5 or 6 of them, you're getting the guys you want. But as football fans, and if you'll all allow me a diatribe for a minute, as football fans, we all talk tactics, we all talk about managers, we all talk about setups and the way things are, but none of us really know what the fuck we're talking about. We don't have our badges, we don't really know everything. But there were some very obvious changes that Pellegrini should have made that I think every single one of us looked at and went, it's insane that he's not doing that. Either Roberto or, playing. for me, playing Haller up front with no pace, we have no mobility in that team. Nobody playing off of him, whether it's formation or system. It's very infrequent that you see the average person can look at something and go, this is what you should be doing as a manager, and actually being right about it. And I think all of us were. So that's the thing that's always got to me most about this recent run of form. And we had a real opportunity with some easier games, if you will, to actually do something about it. But anyway, that's my rant. I had to get that out.
Ken, John, sorry. One that really still pisses me off is home to Newcastle. Playing Zabaleta at right back was something only a fucking idiot would have done. Yeah. And I mean that. Only a fucking idiot would have played Zabaleta at right back in that game, knowing that San Maximin would be on the left wing for Newcastle and was just going to torch him for 90 minutes. And that's exactly what happened. And in that same game, for some bizarre reason, he just decided to drop Ogbonna and bring in Balbuena. And they're like, what are you doing? Ogbonna's been like possibly our best player so far this season. So you take what's a relatively settled back four and then just toss two of them out for no reason whatsoever. It's just, he makes the most bizarre decisions sometimes.
So that was one of those. And then you look at the Burnley game where you're going to get beat up in the air, and you also have our best header of the ball, Ogbonna, not playing as well. So it's those kind of things. I don't know. Is that what is that? Where is that coming from, Jason? Is he too old? Is he past it? Is football changed?
I mean, I actually think that these are similar complaints to, when we had Big Sam, there were some tactical decisions he made that were just baffling. Again, I mean, not to push the point too hard, but I think there's almost a psychological thing. I think some of our managers find themselves in very difficult positions. They're plagued by injury, and frankly, they're plagued by a lack of talent on certain parts of the pitch. And so I think they just put players wherever they think they could possibly get some success from them, whether they do or not. I don't know. I mean, you expect more from a guy like Pellegrini, just with the name and with what he's accomplished elsewhere. But again, it just comes back to, I'm not a fan of kicking out a manager at this point in the season normally, but if he continues to make decisions like this and we're not winning matches, it's getting harder and harder to justify keeping him around, especially when he's going to put players out of position or make these bizarre substitutions. I mean, that really, of all the things he's done tactically, it's some of the substitutions that I think are really kind of insane sometimes.
Wally, I'll let you get one in because you haven't had one in. So anything else on this?
Well, I think, playing Zabaleta against that Newcastle guy who was tremendously fast makes no sense whatsoever. He's generally been playing Fredericks, so why did he pull him out and put Zabaleta in then? I'm just clueless. I'm lost. So clearly, he's, I don't even know, that's not even like he's stubborn and sticking to the same thing there. So I don't really understand that move at all. So I think he's losing his marbles. So he's old, maybe a little senile.
I'll give you a thumb for that. Have you been recording your thumbs? What scores do we have here so far?
Well, somehow I'm in the lead by about 20. And no. I'm in third place with 4, and Jason and Tom are tied with 6. So
very good. Very good. All right. Well, we'll get into the serious end of business here now. What is the best lager in the world? There are many of them. Tommy, let's start with you.
Okay. I should preface my answer with the fact that I am not a connoisseur by any means whatsoever when it comes to beer, liquor, whatever it is. Stunning for an Irishman, I know, but I'm not a drinker. But when I was younger, I used to go out quite a lot. Before heading out, I used to go down to the kind of off-license or liquor store, as you guys would call it. And I used to get a little crate of Miller Lite. And I actually really liked it. I know it probably gets a lot of shit in the US. Maybe it's a joke lager in the US, I don't know, but I always thought the Miller Lite actually tasted really good. I enjoyed sitting at home with a bottle of it before heading out. Now, like I say, ignore my answer entirely if you're someone who likes their beer and their lager, because I know shit about it, I'm just not a drinker, so I'm just pulling that shit out of the air, to be honest.
Wally.
Okay, well, living in Pennsylvania, there's only one choice, and that is, I think the oldest brewery in the United States, or Yingling Lager. That's the one. Yes.
Very
I'm
good. Jason.
I lived in Texas for a number of years, and so I got to give a special shout out to Lone Star. If you haven't been in Texas, you probably haven't tried it. It's the national beer of Texas. It is delicious. I'm going to give a special honorary mention, though, to Asahi Super Dry because it is delicious. It's hard to find, and the cans that come in are massive. The quantity is just incredible.
It is pure value for money, and if you'll notice, I liked every one of those because the real answer is whichever one is in your hand. So, moving on to question number 4. Tell me why Eddie Howe, the man who's being proclaimed as the savior of West Ham, who should come in place of Pellegrini by at least 50% of West Ham fans, tell me why he should not be West Ham's manager. Jason, let's start with you.
Well, I think the first and most obvious reason is because even yesterday he said he wasn't leaving to go to Everton when it was suggested he could go there. He's not really looking for a job. And, I know that Bournemouth really isn't in a enviable position, but the fact of the matter is he's got a history with them. He's had success with them. I think he is a great manager. But I think if he's having the struggles he's having at Bournemouth, why on earth would he come to West Ham? Why would he come knowing what it's like there and seeing how many managers we've cycled through? So I just don't see him really coming. He hasn't said he wants to, and I think that's the biggest part of it. He's still got a job. And frankly, he's not coming because Rafa is on his way.
Oof. Well, I think he's saying he doesn't want to because he has to say that, but time will tell on that one. Wally.
Why shouldn't Eddie Howe come here? I think he has a nice, cushy job where he is, and he's been there a few years, and he's got the squad. He's doing decent. He's keeping Bournemouth up, competitive, and I don't see any reason why he should come to West Ham with the chaos, and our last couple of managers haven't lasted very long. So I think he's smart to stay where he is, to be honest.
Tommy.
Okay, I'm going to give you a little story here and then see if it reminds you of anybody. A few weeks back, Bournemouth started the season quite well. They looked, a good side. They were high up in the table. They had a good September. Then they went to Burton Albion in the cup and lost 2-0. They've won one game since then, and that was against Man United. They've been struggling badly to score goals, and they've been slipping down the table. And their record is played 15, won 4, drawn 4, lost 7. Remind you of anybody? The reason we don't bring him here is because he's doing actually no better than Pellegrini is doing here. They're having exactly the same season as we are. So would he really improve us? Would he really be the saviour that many West Ham fans think he would be? Would he improve us the way many West Ham fans think he would? His record this season at Bournemouth suggests not.
This is the exact answer I was hoping that somebody would come in here with, because I looked at it, I looked at the news, you look at the statistics. Like I said, he won against Man United. I think he even drew against Palace the same way that we did, right? They've played very similar teams to what we have, and they're in about the same place. Now, the argument against that would be we've got better players. Maybe you could do a little bit more with that. What do you guys think about that? Do you think with the resources that West Ham have, he could do a better job than what he's doing at Bournemouth?
Do we have better players?
There's a thumb. What do you
I
think?
think we do have a better team. I know it's hard to keep remembering that, given how poor our form is. You start to look at players and think, geez, this player's not really that good, is he? But actually, the right manager in there getting these players playing the way they can play, I think you would find actually we do have some very, very good players. Lanzini is a case in point. I don't know what happened with Lanzini. He's fallen off a cliff. He looks like a terrible player. He's not. He's an excellent player. But obviously, I don't know what his situation is with Lanzini, but it's the same with a lot of players. Pellegrini, almost everyone seems to be kind of regressing under Pellegrini. They seem to go getting slowly worse and worse and worse. For why that is, I don't know. But yeah, I think the other thing with Eddie Howe, maybe just why he maybe should be West Ham manager, is you just get the feeling he's kind of run his course at Bournemouth, like he's just going through the motions now. I think he wants a new challenge. I think he's been there long enough. I think he wants out of there. I think he wants to go to a kind of slightly better club where he feels he can actually take them maybe into Europe. I think he would see West Ham and Everton as that kind of club. And so despite what he said, Jason, I know he said, no, I'm not going to, but he has to say that when he's still in place at Bournemouth. He can't say, yeah, as soon as one of them comes in, I'm away. He can't say that. So I think he is ready for a challenge. I think it's just going a little bit stale for him there in Bournemouth now. And I think he's ready for a challenge. I think if ourselves or Everton come knocking, he will answer the call. And a reinvigorated Eddie Howe, ready for a new challenge in a new situation, new club, I think actually probably would do very well, at least initially.
I don't disagree. It'd be interesting to see him with a little bit of a bigger budget than what he has at Bournemouth. I wonder if he could motivate our players better than Pellegrini will. I would think so. I mean, his Bournemouth team doesn't slack off, at least. Wally, what do you think?
Yeah, I think he would be. I think Pellegrini is a very hands-off manager, and just seems totally low-key. I think Eddie Howe would be more, personable with the players. He would talk to them, and I think players like Anderson and Allaire, I think they need that kind of, personal touch and not the hands-off thing. And I think he'd get the best out of our top players that way. So I think there is some good to him coming. So
I guess time will tell. Time will definitely tell. Well, Wally, give us a quick score update as we go into the last question.
Well, I think, are you going to give Jason a chance to?
Jason went first, didn't he? Jason, did you answer that one?
No.
Yeah, sort of. I jumped in.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, I mean, there's not too much I could really add to it. I mean, I think that you have to look back a number of years and really ask yourself, which one of our managers has come in looking like the one that's really going to make a big difference for us, and how many disappointments we've had along the way. I was excited for Moyes. I don't think he was that great. I thought Bilic did a good job till he wasn't doing a great job. And frankly, I really had higher hopes for Pellegrini. But again, it's really hard to put your finger on it. What is it about these managers? I mean, who would we need to get to take the current squad that we have with the current owners, the current stadium, the current situation we have, and make us a team that's competitive? I don't necessarily even mean going to Europe, but even a halfway decent cup run, not getting shot out of a competition that early. And I'm not sure. I don't know what the answer is. You could bring the biggest manager on earth or an absolute nobody. And it seems to me that if you look across the records of some of our recent managers over the last, or maybe even last decade, who is really the standout manager? Honestly, who is? I mean, I can tell you the ones that stand out for being the worst, but that's not saying much. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is with this. I think it's really a structural issue with the club. I think that it's not enough to change out the manager, but we have to bring someone in. We have to make some sort of change. But is Eddie Howe going to be the guy that comes there and does it? Is he going to be someone that comes in, we have high hopes, and then he's a disappointment as well? And maybe through no fault of his own. It's really hard to say.
Yeah, I think it goes deeper than a manager. I think it's a culture problem at the club, and it has been for quite some time. But you could spend a whole other episode on that. So let's Wally, what's the scores?
All right, so I'm last place, shockingly, but with 7, and Tom has 11 and Jason 12. So it's very close at the top there.
Close. All right. So last question. As the decade draws to a close, it's 2019. We're going into 2020. What is the most defining moment of the past 10 years? And you can give me one answer for West Ham and one answer that is non-West Ham related. And Wally, I'm going to start with you.
All right. Well, West Ham, clearly is the bicycle kick by Andy Carroll.
It's a good choice.
I mean, that came out of nowhere. It was amazing. I was just in shock when I was watching that on TV, and I just couldn't believe that that big, tall guy could contort his body in that way and put that ball in, on a laser. And that was the greatest moment. And the other monumental shock of this decade in the non-football world was Donald Trump being president. Since you brought him up, I mean,
that's a fair point.
That was unforeseen. I mean, nobody thought he was going to win, and he pulled it out. It was amazing. So anyway,
did. Yeah, it was. Can't argue with that. Jason.
I don't think there's anything that defines the experience of West Ham, the club, its team, its fans, more than the move away from Upton Park.
Oh, big one.
Move to the Olympic Stadium. It's defined everything, and everything that's happened since. The anger at the owners, culminating with a near riot a couple of years ago, March 10th, 2018. I mean, just unbelievable to be watching that unfold. All of the rotation of managers and players, all of our misfortune and occasional good fortune, nothing defines all of that more than the owners buying our club and eventually moving us out of there. I really can't think of something that will have a bigger impact on the club, not just in this decade, but really moving forward. I mean, I don't know what the answer to that is going to be. I'd love to see a new or improved stadium situation for us. But all of those questions are going to be because of the fact that we moved. I think that's the one defining thing. I would say that big defining thing just here for the States, just in America, the world's kind of burning up around us. There's a lot of chaos and there's so many issues. What are people doing here? They're fighting each other over chicken sandwiches.
Yes.
I think the Popeyes chicken sandwich. And let me tell you something, man. As someone who lives in North Carolina, I would never debase myself to go to a Popeyes and eat there when I have Bojangles, but that's neither here nor there.
Oh, wow.
I wouldn't go there if I had all that pulled pork you have down there. And
So good.
It's incredible. So, Tommy, give us that international view.
Okay, we'll start with West Ham. I think defining moment of the decade for us, probably our final game at the Boleyn. The end of a very, very long era. And playing against a big team, it wouldn't have been the same if we'd been playing, Brighton, at home. But in fact, it was Man United, huge team, rocking up, and it was just an incredibly dramatic game. There was 5 goals. We take the lead, and then they equalise, and they go 2-1 up. Then we equalise, and then that famous moment from Winston Reid right at the end where De Gea just gets a hand to it, but just can't keep it out. And the ground just went absolutely crazy. That rendition of Bubbles, you all remember that? Like before the game, the whole crowd, it was just sounded unbelievable. And then all the festivities afterwards and stuff. And then ending it all with Bobby Moore turning the lights off. So that to me was really a defining moment of the decade, West Ham-wise. Non-West Ham, I'm sticking with Premier League. I can't look beyond. Funnily enough, in the same month and the same year, May 2016, Leicester somehow became champions of England. A team, just to put it into context, the season before, they looked like they were gone. They were relegated under Nigel Pearson. They looked a beaten docket. And they somehow managed to rally in the final 10 games. They managed to win a few games and just scraped clear of the relegation zone. Then there was in the summer, there was an incident over in Thailand, I think, with some Leicester players, including Nigel Pearson's son, and there was a falling out, and he ended up getting sacked. They brought in Ranieri. Everyone, including Leicester fans, are like, what are you doing? Bloody Ranieri, the Tinker Man. What are you bringing him in for? Everyone was completely overwhelmed, like, oh, this is not going to be good. They were one of the favourites to be relegated that coming season, and were 5,000 to 1 to win the Premier League. but well, we all know the rest. Just one of the most incredible team performances probably in the history of sport, when you consider they did it over 38 games to win the title. Just an amazing thing to witness.
True Cinderella story. You know, like you said, starting before then. I mean, their rise through the leagues, just incredible. Yeah, something that we may never see again in our lifetime, except maybe this season if they catch Liverpool. We'll see. But Wally, who's won? What are the scores?
Okay, well, I've moved up a place into second place with 9 points. And we have a tie for first between Jason and Tom with each at 15. Yes.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm not counting. That's how you know I'm not counting. I had no idea whatsoever.
Right.
So we're going to have to come up with a tiebreaker. Let's see.
A good host would have one ready.
Yeah, no, I'm not a good host, Tom. I'm not a good host. Jesus Christ. Everybody's Pellegrini out, so who should come in and why? Tommy, I'll give you first crack.
Okay. I'm not going to bandy about the usual names. I'm going to be a little bold and a little brave and a little bit inspired by Chelsea here. The fact they brought in Lampard, they gave him a chance. Young manager, very ambitious, really wants to do well, can still connect with the players. He's still young enough to really connect with players, and comes from a culture of winning at Chelsea. And so that's why my mind keeps drifting to Steven Gerrard at Glasgow Rangers. I think there's a lot of similarity. I know a lot of people, I see Jason's face, it's counterintuitive. You think, why Gerrard? A lot of people would have said, why bloody Lampard at Chelsea? He's too young. He hasn't done anything. He did okay at Derby County. It seems counterintuitive when you go for someone young and unproven. Steven Gerrard comes from a winning culture. He will command massive respect in the dressing room from our players. Massive respect. And he's that kind of moody, kind of demanding kind of guy that is going to set standards that he expects players to keep. Hugely ambitious. He would want to win games. He would want them to play well. He comes from the way they played at Liverpool. They played a nice, attractive, attacking football. He would definitely do that with us. And I think someone like that might be worth a punt, because I know, Jason, you were saying earlier, and you were agreeing, John, that there's a kind of more of a cultural kind of issue. We can bring in a manager with a name. Do you really want to go get Rafa Benitez? You can take a punt on Eddie Howe. Might work, might not. There's no given here. There's no guaranteed manager we can bring in who'll do great. So I think, why not take a punt? It's not like he's going to be on massive money, Gerrard. He would want this job. He would want it. He would want to be in the Premier League. He would want that stepping stone. No doubt he wants to be manager of Liverpool sometime. And he might see West Ham as a stepping stone for him to take over Liverpool if and when Klopp does leave. So even if things went a bit pear-shaped and it didn't work out, Gerrard's not going to be on massive money. We can sack him and try again. I think someone like Gerrard would be worth a punt.
Right. I'm not showing the likes, just so everybody knows. I've got them in my head. Jason.
Well, I like the idea of Rafa Benitez. I mean, I think that he's got experience in the Premier League. He's got experience with clubs that are sort of not necessarily at their best, and I think he's had some success with them, and he's certainly got some experience working with clubs that are in trouble. I guess my apprehension with him is that he's the only Premier League manager I know to have given up points to a beach ball. So I'm not particularly excited about Rafa Benitez, but I actually don't think he'd be bad. But, I said earlier we were going to get 3 points at City. I've had a few drinks. I'm feeling aspirational. So I'm going to go ahead and say that things aren't going to go well at the new club. It's going to be just a matter of games before he's gone. It's going to be time for us to bring in the Portuguese Pulis. Mourinho is coming to us. We're getting Mourinho.
Oh my God! I should give you a thumb just for the laughs on that one. I've got Tommy as the winner on that one. Sorry, Jason. I don't know if I can see Mourinho coming our way.
It's happening.
Dear God, I don't know if I want that to happen. But anyway, nice game, everybody. Tommy, I'm going to give you the floor. You get to go on a rant and either complain about something, plug yourself. Let me remove these guys. Or what do you want the West Ham supporters out there to know? So over to you, Tommy.
Just something that we've already kind of touched on a little bit. I'll try not to rant too much. Just the way the club is run needs to change. Now, I don't think it's going to happen. I think we need a change of ownership. There's something, as you say, there's something just rotten from the top. And if the top is kind of rotten, then nothing underneath is ever really going to work. So I just want these owners out, to be quite frank. Just on the amount of lies that they peddled to get us to buy into moving away from Upton Park to the Olympic Stadium. I mean, the list is endless of the lies that they were peddling. I share them on Twitter whenever they come up, you know, and it's shocking how many lies they told to get what they wanted. That was their plan. They didn't buy West Ham to save the club. They didn't buy it because they're West Ham and it's their club and they love West Ham. They saw an opportunity. Their plan right from the outset was to take us out of Upton Park, and they knew they could get us into the Olympic Stadium, sell the club off down the line, make a nice tidy profit. They saw us as a cash cow in the long run, and nothing more. So, and the same with Karen Brady. She was brought in there just to facilitate. She's, you know, just to, as the PR person for all the harsh shit that was being peddled. She was going to push all this kind of crap out there, and she was she has some political clout in London, and she's like a big Tory over there, and Boris Johnson was the mayor, so they knew that Karen Brady could get in the ear of Boris Johnson. They know each other, so they knew that she could help push that deal through, which she did. To be fair, whatever you think of Karen Brady, she is very bloody good at what she does. So that's my rant. I just want these guys out of the club. I know there's no real prospect of that happening anytime soon, but I just can't stand them. And I think this is what we're going to be as a club until they're gone. And the sooner they fuck off, the better, frankly.
There you go. That's Tommy's thoughts. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming in today. Wally, Jason, Tommy, thank you all. Everybody in the chat room, thanks for coming on. Anybody listening, watching after the fact, thank you. Make sure you subscribe to American Hammers TV. Also, get on the store. Where is that? ahtv.threadless.com. Is that right, Wally? I think
That's right. Yeah, that's it.
There you
Exactly.
go. Listen, I've heard Tim go on about it every show, so I think I got it down from him. But yeah, Friday Night Likes. Make sure you tune in, subscribe, follow us all on social media. You can see my handle there, John_A_Nolan. And if you want to be on the show, if you want to add questions to the show, just reach out to me on Twitter and we'll get you on. So with that, thanks everybody, and come on, you Irons.
Yeah, thanks. Good night.